The personality flaw that makes people secretly pity you is chronic victim mentality. The habit of seeing yourself as powerless against life's events, constantly complaining, blaming others or circumstances, and seeking sympathy instead of taking ownership. In Stoicism, this is a deep weakness because it surrenders your inner citadel, the one thing no one can take, your judgment and response. People sense it quietly. They may smile, nod, offer comfort, but inside they feel a subtle sorrow for you. Not respect, not admiration, but pity. You become the person they tiptoe around, the one they no longer challenge because they see you as fragile. The pain is real. You feel unseen, unheard, stuck. You wonder why opportunities pass you by, why relationships feel shallow, why respect seems to slip away. Deep down, you fear you're not strong enough, that life is unfair only to you. That quiet frustration builds, doesn't it? The sense that you're carrying a weight no one else has to bear. If this speaks to you, hit that like button to remind yourself you're choosing strength today, and subscribe for more Stoic insights that cut straight to the core of living well. Turn on notifications so you never miss a reminder to rise above. Number 1. The hidden cost of victim thinking. Victim thinking begins as a soft refuge. When failure arrives, rejection stings, or plans collapse, the easiest path is to externalize the cause completely. This always happens to me. People like that always get ahead. The world is rigged against anyone trying to do right. In that moment, it feels protective. It removes the sharp edge of personal responsibility and lets you breathe. But comfort bought this way comes at compound interest. Every time you lean into the victim narrative, you train your perception to filter reality through a lens of powerlessness. You wake up already anticipating the next injustice instead of scanning for the next opportunity. Your attention becomes a spotlight on what's wrong, what's missing, what's unfair, and slowly your world shrinks to match that focus. Relationships suffer first and most quietly. People around you start to notice the repetition. The same grievances recycled, the same sighs on cue, the same subtle plea for validation hidden in every story. They respond with kindness initially, but kindness has limits. Over time, their emotional energy depletes when you're near. Conversations stay surface level because anything deeper risks triggering another round of complaint. They begin to speak more slowly, choose words more carefully, avoid certain topics. Inside, they feel a quiet sorrow for you. Not anger, not contempt, but a gentle, distancing pity. They see a person trapped in a self-made cage, and they pity the bars you refuse to see. The Stoics cut straight through this illusion. Epictetus said we are disturbed not by things, but by our opinions about things. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. By casting every setback as evidence of your special misfortune, you multiply suffering exponentially. You add emotional weight that events themselves never demanded. The cost is dignity, respect, influence. The antidote is brutally simple, yet profoundly difficult. Stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and replace it with the Stoic question, "What is this asking of me now?" Pause, breathe deeply. Name one single element still within your control, no matter how small, and act on it immediately. A phone call, a walk, a rewritten plan, a moment of deliberate calm. Do it consistently and watch the dynamic shift. Others begin to sense the change in your posture, your tone, your gaze. The pity in their eyes fades, replaced first by curiosity, then by quiet respect. You stop being the person they tiptoe around and start becoming the one they look to when storms arrive. Number 2. How complaining betrays your inner strength. Complaining is the most visible symptom of victim mentality, and it leaks power faster than almost anything else. Each time you voice a grievance without purpose, without moving toward solution or understanding, you broadcast helplessness. It feels relieving in the instant. Tension releases, someone nods, sympathy flows. But relief is temporary. The damage is cumulative. Seneca observed that we often torture ourselves more with our tongues than with any external event. Constant complaint rewires your brain to seek problems instead of possibilities. It turns conversation into a drain rather than a bridge. People listen at first because they care, but repetition breeds fatigue. They offer advice you don't take, encouragement you deflect, solutions you dismiss. Eventually they stop offering. They nod politely, change the subject, or simply withdraw energy. Behind the polite mask they think, he still hasn't moved past this. They pity the loop you're caught in. Stoicism treats words as sacred tools, not emotional waste. The wise man speaks little unless the speech serves virtue, truth, or progress. Restraint is not suppression, it is mastery. Practice deliberate silence over useless complaint. For an entire day, catch every impulse to grumble and replace it with neutral observation followed by a question of control. This happened. I feel the frustration rising. What part of this is still up to me? Speak only when the words would build something. Clarity, connection, or full emotion. The calm that emerges is almost startling. Your presence changes. Voice becomes steadier, eyes clearer, energy more contained. People notice without knowing why. They lean in instead of leaning away. They start asking your opinion instead of offering comfort. A man who masters his tongue appears unbreakable because he no longer leaks dignity through every sentence. This single habit, practiced relentlessly, dismantles the pity reflex in others and rebuilds genuine respect from the inside out. Start today. One day of disciplined speech, then another. The transformation compounds quietly but powerfully. Number 3. The Stoic dichotomy of control. Epictetus handed us the sharpest blade against victimhood, the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us. Our judgments, intentions, efforts, desires, aversions. Everything else, wealth, reputation, health, other people's actions, outcomes, is not. Victim mentality lives on the wrong side of that line. It treats externals as extensions of self-worth. When they falter, the self falters too. A betrayal becomes, I am worthless. A failure becomes, I am doomed. A delay becomes, life hates me. The Stoic redraws the boundary daily with ruthless clarity. The job loss is not ruining my life. It is an indifferent event. Your response, studying new skills, reaching out to contacts, maintaining discipline, preserving inner calm, is what defines your character. Apply this distinction in real time. When the familiar wave of why me rises, interrupt it. What is truly up to me here? List it out mentally or on paper. Then act. Not grand gestures, small, deliberate, consistent ones. The power is immediate. Energy stops hemorrhaging into blame and resentment. It flows into reasoned action instead. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Lie that sentence. Others witness the difference. They see you meet disappointment without collapse, criticism without retaliation, loss without despair. No theatrics, no self-pity, just steady, rational response. Pity cannot survive in the presence of genuine self-command. It withers and dies. In its place grows something far more magnetic, quiet admiration. People begin to seek your counsel because they sense you have something they lack, control over the only thing that truly matters. Practice this every single day. Morning reflection. Name 3 things outside your control and release them. Evening review. Name 3 things within your control and how you honored them. The victim identity dissolves under this steady pressure. You become free, not from hardship, but from the illusion that hardship owns you. Number 4. Replacing self-pity with self-command. At the core of chronic victimhood lies self-pity, the soft, seductive voice that insists you deserve an easier path, that your suffering is uniquely unjust, that life should have been kinder. It feels like comfort, but it is betrayal of your highest potential. Self-pity keeps you fragile, small, and dependent on external rescue. Stoicism prescribes the strongest antidote, Amor Fati, love of fate. Not passive acceptance, but active embrace. When difficulty arrives, do not ask why it came to you. Ask how it can forge you stronger. Treat every obstacle as a personal gymnasium for virtue. Pain becomes practice in endurance. Rejection becomes practice in equanimity. Delay becomes practice in patience. Gratitude replaces grievance. You thank the hardship, not for the pain itself, but for the opportunity it reveals, to see your weaknesses clearly, to train your character deliberately, to prove to yourself what you are capable of becoming. This shift radiates. Your stories change. No more poor me, narratives delivered with heavy sighs. Instead, calm recounting followed by deliberate action. People feel the difference in your energy. The weight you used to carry visibly lightens. They stop seeing a victim and start seeing someone in training, someone who meets resistance and grows from it. The practice is straightforward, yet demands consistency. At the end of each day, sit quietly and write 3 events that tested you. For each, answer, what virtue was this asking me to practice? How did I respond? What can I do better tomorrow? Over weeks and months, self-pity atrophies from disuse. Inner command strengthens. Others sense the transformation without words. They no longer offer pity because there is nothing pitiable left. In its place, they offer respect, curiosity, even inspiration. You become the living proof that hardship does not break a trained mind. It sharpens it. Number 5, becoming the person no one can pity. The ultimate victory over victim mentality is to live so consistently in virtue that pity becomes impossible. A true Stoic does not chase admiration. He earns it as a byproduct of integrity. He practices justice in small interactions, courage in quiet decisions, wisdom in restrained speech, temperance in desires and reactions. When challenges arrive, and they always do, he meets them without drama, without excuses, without the need to broadcast suffering. No theatrical sighs, no fishing for sympathy, just clear-eyed assessment and deliberate action. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily reminders to himself to rise above pettiness, to treat obstacles as opportunities, to remain unmoved by what cannot be controlled. Do the same. Identify the arena where victim thinking appears most strongly, perhaps in work, relationships, health, finances, and make that your primary training ground. Decide today, in this area I will respond differently. I will own my portion, act from reason, preserve calm no matter the outcome. Execute. Watch how the atmosphere around you changes. Eyes that once held pity now hold curiosity, then respect, then quiet honor. You no longer receive careful, softened treatment. You receive straight talk, real expectations, genuine partnership. This is the timeless Stoic path. Not flashy, not instant, but certain. It requires daily recommitment, but the reward is freedom from the heaviest burden of all, the need to be rescued from your own life. Live this way long enough, and the flaw dies permanently. You stand tall not because circumstances improved, but because you chose, again and again, to be unbreakable. That choice alone makes pity irrelevant. You become the person others look to, not down upon. And in that quiet dignity lies the deepest strength of all. Number 6, the illusion of fairness. Expecting life to be fair is one of the deepest roots of victim thinking. You look around and see others thriving while you struggle, and the question burns, why not me? Why is everything so unjust? This belief that the universe owes you balance turns every imbalance into a personal attack. It makes you feel singled out, cursed, deserving of better without effort. But fairness is a human invention, not a law of nature. Events unfold indifferently. Rain falls on the just and unjust alike. When you demand fairness as a right, you set yourself up for endless disappointment. Each unmet expectation becomes fresh proof of your victim status. You collect grievances like trophies, replaying them in your mind, building resentment that poisons your days. People sense this undercurrent of bitterness. They hear the edge in your voice when you speak of how things should be, and they pull back. Not because they disagree, but because they pity the weight you carry from chasing something that never existed. Stoicism dismantles this illusion completely. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by events, but by our judgments about them. Stop judging life as unfair. See it as neutral training ground. When injustice appears, pause and ask, is this truly unfair? Or is my expectation the real problem? List what you can control, your effort, your honesty, your calm, and release the rest. Practice this redirection daily. Gratitude for what is, rather than anger at what isn't, shifts everything. Over time, the victim story loses its grip. Others notice your steady acceptance instead of simmering complaint. Pity fades because you no longer appear chained to an impossible demand. You stand freer, stronger, and people begin to respect the quiet power of a mind that no longer begs for fairness. Number 7. The trap of comparison. Comparison is a silent accelerator of victim mentality. You scroll through lives that look perfect, better jobs, happier relationships, easier paths, and the contrast stings. They have it all, and I have nothing. Life gave them the easy road. This habit turns your gaze outward constantly, measuring your worth by others' highlights. It breeds envy, then self-pity, then resentment. You start believing your hardships are uniquely heavy while everyone else floats. The truth is hidden. Everyone carries unseen burdens. The person you envy may battle silently with pain you never see. By comparing upward only, you ignore this reality and inflate your own suffering. Marcus Aurelius warned against envying what others have. Instead, focus on living according to nature, your own rational nature. When comparison creeps in, interrupt it. Turn the lens inward. What virtues am I cultivating today? What small step can I take right now? Limit exposure to triggers. Reduce mindless scrolling. Surround yourself with reminders of your own progress. Journal nightly. 3 things you did well, no matter how small. This builds an internal measure of success that no one can steal. People around you feel the change. Your conversations shift from "look what they have" to "here's what I'm building." They stop offering pity because you no longer radiate lack. Instead, they sense quiet self-respect. The trap dissolves as you stop playing the comparison game. You reclaim energy once wasted on envy and channel it into real growth. Respect returns, not borrowed from others' lives, but earned through mastery of your own. Number 8. Prepare for hardship to starve victim thinking. Victim mentality thrives on surprise. When trouble hits unexpectedly, the shock fuels a cry. This isn't supposed to happen to me. You feel ambushed, helpless, betrayed by life. Stoics counter this with premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils. Deliberately imagine potential hardships in advance, not to dwell in fear, but to rob them of their power to shock. Seneca advised reviewing daily. What if poverty comes? What if exile? What if illness or loss? By facing these mentally when calm, you train your response ahead of time. The event arrives, but the emotional blow is softened. You've already rehearsed equanimity. This practice starves victimhood at its source. No longer do setbacks feel like personal attacks. They become expected parts of the human condition. You meet them with, "This is what I prepared for. Now I act." Others watch in quiet awe. They see you handle difficulty without collapse, without the usual flood of complaints. No dramatic sighs, no why me stories, just calm, reasoned steps forward. Pity cannot attach to someone who appears ready for anything. The practice is simple. Each morning, spend 5 minutes visualizing one challenge, job loss, criticism, health scare, and rehearse your virtuous response. Gratitude follows naturally. I'm still here, still able to choose. Over months, anticipation replaces dread. Victim thinking withers because hardship no longer surprises or defines you. You become the person who endures, not the one who crumbles. Respect grows organically. People lean towards someone prepared, not someone perpetually caught off guard. Number 9. Voluntary discomfort. Chronic victim mentality makes you fragile. Small inconveniences feel like catastrophes because you've grown and used a hardship, a delay, a rejection. A minor criticism triggers disproportionate pain and the familiar poor me spiral. Stoics prescribe voluntary discomfort to build toughness. Seneca slept on hard floors, walked barefoot in cold, ate plain food, not for masochism, but to remind himself that he could endure more than he feared. By choosing small hardships voluntarily, you prove to yourself that discomfort is survivable. Victimhood loses its fuel when you no longer see yourself as too delicate for life's rough edges. Start small, skip a meal, take a cold shower, walk instead of driving, say no to comfort. Each time, note the discomfort, then the passing of it. You emerge unchanged, stronger. Actually, this habit rewires perception. What once felt crushing now registers as ordinary. When real hardship arrives, you meet it with, "I've trained for this." People sense the difference. Your reactions stay measured. Your energy remains steady. They no longer tiptoe or soften words. They speak plainly because you appear solid. Pity evaporates around someone who willingly faces discomfort. The practice compounds. Over weeks, fragility fades, resilience rises. You stop seeking sympathy because you no longer need it. Others admire the quiet toughness. You become proof that strength is built, not given. Victim identity dies as voluntary discomfort turns fragility into freedom. Number 10. The Evening Review. The Evening Review is Stoicism's most powerful weapon against creeping victim mentality. At day's end, Marcus Aurelius sat quietly and asked himself 3 questions. What did I do today? What did I fail to do? What can I improve tomorrow? No excuses, no self-pity, just honest accounting. This ritual forces ownership. You confront where you blamed instead of acted, complained instead of solved, pitted yourself instead of persevered. By naming these moments without mercy or drama, you strip them of power. Victim thinking survives in darkness. Unexamined, it repeats. The review drags it into light. Over time, patterns emerge. I blamed traffic again instead of leaving earlier. Awareness grows, then correction. You start the next day vigilant, choosing differently. People notice the subtle shift. Fewer grievances, more calm purpose. They stop seeing a perpetual victim and see someone in deliberate self-correction. Pity has no foothold when you hold yourself accountable nightly. Make it ritual. Quiet space, notebook, 3 questions. Be brutally honest but kind. No self-flagellation, just facts. End with 1 virtue to practice tomorrow. Consistency transforms. Victim habits atrophy from daily exposure. Strength builds through repeated honest reckoning. You rise each morning not as prey to circumstance, but as architect of response. Others feel the integrity. Respect replaces pity because they witness a man who masters himself before the world even wakes. This simple nightly practice, done relentlessly, eradicates the flaw at its root. You live not as victim, but as victor over your own mind. Now you stand at the threshold. The personality flaw we've dissected, chronic victim mentality, is not some unbreakable curse etched into your character. It is a habit, a practiced way of seeing and responding, and like any habit, it can be unmade through deliberate, daily choice. Stoicism does not promise an easier life. It promises a stronger one. It hands you the tools to stop leaking dignity through blame, complaint, and self-pity, and instead to build an inner fortress that no external storm can breach. Every time you catch the old narrative rising, "Why me?" and replace it with "What now?" you chip away at the flaw. Every evening you review your day honestly. Every morning you premeditate hardship. Every moment you choose silence over useless words or voluntary discomfort over fragility. You are rewriting who you are. The people around you will feel this change long before they can name it. The careful tone, the softened glances, the subtle pity, they fade. In their place comes something far more valuable. Respect born not from what life has given you, but from how unflinchingly you meet what it withholds. This is not a one-time victory. It is a lifelong practice. There will be days when the victim voice returns, louder than before, whispering that you're too tired, too hurt, too justified in your grievances. On those days, remember Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Return to the dichotomy of control. Return to Amor, Fati. Return to the simple questions. What is up to me? How can I respond with virtue? The path is not flashy or instant. It is quiet, steady, relentless. But it is certain. As you walk it, you stop being the person others secretly pity and become the one they quietly admire. The one who does not bend when the wind howls, who does not break when the ground shifts, who meets every difficulty as a chance to prove what a trained mind and a disciplined will can do. That is the dignity Stoicism offers. Not freedom from pain, but freedom within it. So begin today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, today. Pick one small arena where victim thinking shows up most often. Decide, right now, to respond differently. Own your portion, act from reason, preserve your calm. Do it imperfectly at first. Perfection is not the goal. Consistency is. Each step forward starves the flaw a little more until, one day, you look back and realize the pity has vanished entirely. In its place stands a man who no longer needs to be rescued from his own life, because he has learned to rule it. That is the ultimate Stoic triumph. Not that life becomes easy, but that you become unbreakable. Go forward with that quiet power. The world needs more of it, and so do you.